Thank you, Bob. So hopefully everybody caught up with me and heard what we were talking about. But basically, an introduction we just went through with myself and with Bob. And now we're at the point where we're just reviewing who we are and why we have the expertise to talk about this. So like I said, we've been in business over 29 years. Um, Interesting. So a couple of technical difficulties here. There we go. All right, everybody can see my screen okay? I believe so. We're good to go. Like I said, over 29 years in business, 22 full-time certified employees. We do not outsource anything to third-party companies. We do not outsource to contractors. Everything that we do ourselves. A lot of that has to do with the compliance requirements of a number of our clients. It also has to do with the quality of the service that we want to deliver to our clients. So those things are critical to us. And one of the reasons why we're putting on this sort of webinar is we're really big believers, like I said, of what comes around goes around. If we do the right things for the right reasons, it'll come back to us. We're not here to sell anybody on anything other than the concept that we really love Microsoft Teams. We really believe in it. It's really made a huge impact in our business. We've seen it make an impact in a number of our clients' businesses. And we just believe that we'll share some information and hopefully help you guys take this to the next level as you work with it with your teams and your staff. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about what we'll be covering today. Right, so again, this is an intermediate class. We're looking to kick it up a little bit above and beyond what the first two classes covered. We're going to do some deep dives into some really specific things like how to create and manage your teams. What's the difference between a team and a channel? How to use teams to communicate with people outside of the organization, which is a pretty cool thing. So for those of you who have teams, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're limited to just using it within your organization. You can definitely use it with people outside your organization and outside of your domain. So that's a pretty cool feature. How to integrate OneNote into your teams. I'm a really big user of OneNote, OneDrive, and how we can turn that into another feature of Teams. And that's one of the beauty of Teams is you can integrate a lot of different components of other facets, other pieces of the Microsoft ecosystem and get them integrated into your teams to really, again, kick it up another notch. How to add other tabs and add other apps to your teams. It's pretty cool. There are pretty cool apps out there. There's a couple, 300, 400, 500 different apps that integrate in. So that's pretty cool. How to use Teams on your phone. And then last but not least, interspersed with everything that's going on, we've got some valuable intermediate level tips and tricks that we'll throw out there. As we're going through this, again, if there's any questions that anybody has, please feel free to throw them out into the chat here on GoToWebinar, and we'll talk them through and try to integrate your questions in during the presentation. We'd like this to be a two-way conversation as much as possible. So that being said, I'm going to turn over the reins of this screen and turn over the reins of this presentation to Bob. Bob's going to dive into some deep how-tos, and we'll cover that stuff, and I'll circle back in between, and we'll go from there. You're good to take things over, Bob? Hello?
Craig, if you could go ahead and give me permission there
Yep.
to show my screen.
All right. I think you good now, Bob? I see your screen now.
Okay, Craig, here, can you see my screen here? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Uh, no, I see your desktop.
Okay, how
Now,
about now? Okay, sorry about that confusion, guys. Here we go. You know, for an IT company, it was bound for us to have technical glitch eventually. So here we go. As Craig said, we're very happy that you guys are here with us today. We're very pleased that you've come and joined us for this webinar. And to be honest, if you have made it to all three of our webinars, let me extend a very special welcome to you, who we will now be completing the trilogy. And I'm very excited and very happy that you guys have stuck around for the three webinars that we presented. So let's dive into it, guys. We've talked enough. Let's get into what you're here for. Let's talk about teams. So as you can see here on what I have on the screen is two different approaches to communication and collaboration within teams. So last time when we talked, we really kept it simple about the chat function and being involved, how to get around. But there are other levels to communicate. So on one end, we have the chats and the calls, and that's, you know, we can instant message each other very quickly. We can initiate calls and meetings very quickly. We can hold sidebar conversations if we want, and we can collaborate at a very basic level with each other through that chat and call function within Teams. Very lightweight and simple. Let's say we want to use a little bit more muscle and structure though with our Teams application. Let's say we have this big comprehensive project that we have to do. There's lots of people involved. There's lots of moving parts involved. We might have rolling deadlines of such. This is where those teams and channels are really going to become helpful for you and your company. It's going to, you know, manage your streamline your daily operations, centralize the group information and resources, and provide that visibility to the entire team. So let me give you an example. What do I mean by that? You know, let's say we had this long-term project and we wanted to document the project life cycle. That would be a way that we could use teams and channels as documenting where we're at throughout the project. Or let's say we're a sales company and we want to manage our sales cycle. So we could use teams and channels to kind of see where are we at with these prospective clients. We can get constant updates, and so that everyone on the team knows exactly where we stand with each individual sale that we're trying to make. We can also use it inward, you know, kind of knowledge base for some of our employees. Let's say we have something for HR and we want to update. We have some new work from home policies that we want to push out to the team. Of course, we could do that through a team and channel. I'll show you how in a little bit. We could also create a channel for tech support. You know, that's a great example. Now, obviously, if you were an FPA client, you wouldn't need a channel for tech support because we would have it handled for you. But I digress. So anyways, the big thing here is that it gives visibility to your entire team. That's what's really important about those teams and channels. Okay, let's go here and really dive in. What's the difference between a team and a channel? You know, like I said last webinar, I'm not exactly sure why teams chose to use the word teams to mean two different things within their application, but it does. So we'll just have to deal with it. And in this particular case, we're going to treat a team as the frame, and the channels kind of add structure to that frame. So what a team does is it defines who has access to that team. It might be public or private. The owner can manage who can come and go. The members within that team can contribute, and the entire work group has visibility. Whereas the channels are kind of the subtopics of it. So a great example would be the team is the house, and the channel would be the rooms within the house. Or another example would be the teams were a dresser, and the channel would be the drawers within that dresser. So that really gives us a clear definition of what the difference is between a team and a channel. So, okay, enough talking about it. Let's go in and jump into the application and really put this to use. Okay, so here is our demo Teams application. You can see, guys, here, if I use my left pane that we talked about last time, I can go up to the chat. Here you can see the chat that we had last time where Craig learned a little bit about classic rock. We all remember that fun conversation here. But what I'm going to do is go to the left here and I'm going to click on the Teams button. And that's going to show me all the teams that I personally am involved with. So what I'm going to do is show you a couple examples of what could a team and channel be? What kind of ideas am I talking about? How could we utilize this at our own company? So a great example of a great public team for your company would be building alerts. Let's say you have some emergency preparedness. If you're like me and you're in LA County, earthquakes are obviously a problem. So we want to give our employees what's the information if we're in the office, what do we do in case there's an earthquake? We could put that information in that channel and everyone in the company would have access to it. We could create safety captains if any issues. We could also have weather notifications. Let's say we wanted to work outside or something and we could update that. We could have a channel for how the weather's going to be. If we have some of our team members that are working out in the field, maybe we can keep that up to date. As you can see here, guys, I have this called access codes channel, and you can see this little icon here, this lock right next to it. And what that means is that the access code channel is actually a private channel. So compared to the other channels, this one's private. So let's say that we have specific access codes that we want to get into the building, but we don't need everyone in the company to have the access to that. So what I can do is I can private that channel and I can give access to only the people that I really want to have access to it. So you can see there real easily, I can separate between having a public channel and having a private channel very easily. Let's go over a couple of more examples here. Let's say we have peer champions. So if you're like FPA, you have a lot of different employees who have a lot of various degrees of technical skills and various attributes that they can contribute to. And if you want to do your best to kind of brain dump that information to the rest of your team so that everyone can kind of stay on the same page, maybe you want to create some peer champions team and channel. And what you can do, let's say you have someone who's very good at a particular subject, we can go ahead and create them a channel, a resources channel, and they have any information that they can kind of send over, or let's say they found a great article that they thought that would really benefit the team, they could go ahead and put it in that resources. We could also do some type of training. Let's say at your company you want to do a lot of peer one-on-one training. We could actually monitor that training throughout the channel. We could get updates and see where each in particular employee is doing. Maybe they're doing great, they need a little bit more, or maybe we need to step back and review some more things. We can monitor all that through the training channel. So finally, I'm going to give you one more example here, HR resources. Let's say we had someone in the house that was HR, and we had a new employee that came on, and instead of going through the motions every time and being confused, we could just create a team or a channel that has all that information, those onboarding resources to do whatever they need to get up to speed at your company can all be located in that channel. So these are ways that we can really in-house kind of use teams and channels for our advantage. Now, of course, it doesn't have to always be in-house. I added one here, product rollout. Let's say that we're a marketing team and we want to manage a project. It doesn't have to be in-house. It can be anything that you can think of that needs to be organized or managed in this basic fashion can be done through a team and channel. So that's really great. Okay, so how do I join a team? That's a real simple question. How would I join a team, or how would I create a team? So if you can see here on the bottom left-hand corner, I can click either join or create a team right here. And it opens up this button and I have multiple options. As you can see here, there's a couple public teams that are available to me that anyone can join. I can click on any time that I want. I can create a team. If it's a private team, I'm going to get a code. So only private teams that I've been invited to can I actually access. I can't access any private teams that I'm not involved with that I haven't been invited to. So if I wanted to join any public team, I can go ahead and click join team right now. As you can see, I've joined the team and it's going to show up here on the left. Now I'm a part of the procurement team as well, which is important because I run the procurement at FPA, so I might as well be a part of the team. Okay, so how do we manage teams? Now that we've joined a team, what's something that we can do to manage? So we've talked about ellipsis before, guys, and an ellipsis is these three buttons, these three dots right here. This is kind of what I'm going to click to manage the team. So if I go ahead and click on that, what I can do is it gives me a drop-down menu of certain things that I can do. I'll click on this manage team in a minute. We'll dive in here, but I can add a channel if I'd like. I can add an additional member if I'd like. I can leave the team. I can edit the name, all these good things. And if I wanted to, I could delete the team if I so choose. So if I want to, as the owner of all these teams, I can manage the team in any way that I want. I can add people, I can subtract them. I can manage the team in any way that I'd like. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on this manage team. Okay, as you can see right now, there's only one owner, that's me, but I can invite as many people as they want. So my team is a little lonely here, so why don't I go over here to this little blue button here and go ahead and add a member. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and I'm gonna add Craig. And we're going to do Craig Demo here because real Craig isn't here. Craig Demo is in his place. So I'm going to go ahead and add Craig Demo. And now Craig is actually going to get an update from me. He'll get a notification in his team saying, hey, Bob added you to this team. So that's really great. So now, as you can see, if I go down to the members and guests, you can see Craig has been added as a member as well. So I'm sure a lot of people who are listening right now are wondering and saying, Bob, well, that's really great for people inside, but can I share teams and channels with people who aren't part of my company and who don't have 365? Well, the answer is, of course, yes, you can. And that's really great. So if I were to go here and add a member, all I have to do is go ahead and add the email address of the person that I'd like to add. As for those of you who have been here before, know, of course, that Michael Jordan is my go-to here. So what I'm going to do is click add Michael Jordan at Nike.com as a guest, and he's added. Done deal. I've seen Craig has mentioned me in the demo here, so I've updated. He's a part of the team now. I can go, do you see over here, guys? I've gotten some updates of activity, so I can go check real quick, and it sees here, Craig has responded. Thanks for the invite. No problem, Craig. Glad to have you on the team. Okay, so let's go back real quick to managing the team here. As you guys can see, we've added Craig and we've also added Michael Jordan. So between us just on this webinar, there's really no question as to who's more of a valuable player to this team between Craig and Michael Jordan, but we'll leave it at that. So anyways, these are the members and the guests. Hey, sometimes, you know, when you're this, you have to be the butt of my jokes.
Yeah.
So at any rate, here are the members. I can add and subtract any way that I want. If I go over here, I can delete them off. I can add them as a member. I can create an owner. Now, what's really important here, guys, is you can see that Michael Jordan cannot be a member or an owner. So although guests can have access to the team and they can do certain things, they cannot become an owner, and they're limited by how much they can do. Now, can they interact with you and can they see updates and all that good stuff? Sure, but you can't make a guest an owner. So that's one limitation of adding somebody who's not part of your network into that teams and channels. They can be a part of it, they can be a guest, but they can't be a member or an owner. Okay, so if I go up to the top here and I follow along the slides, I click on channels, it's going to go ahead and show me all the channels that are associated with this team. And I can go ahead and I can show them here. I can hide them, the types. I can see the activity. If I go ahead and click on the ellipsis here, there's other things that I can do in regards to that channel notification. This is where I manage the channels within that specific team. If I go ahead and click on setting, I can add some really fun stuff to this team. I can add a team picture if you guys want. I can go through all those permissions that we can talk about. Remember, we want some people to have the ability to do some things, and then we want other people to just be able to view. This is where I would go in there and I would decide who has the permissions to do one thing or another and who doesn't. As well as I can determine the guest permissions here. If I go ahead, I can allow Michael Jordan here to create and update the channels, and I can allow them to delete the channels, but that's about the extent of what I can allow a guest to do comparatively. At mentions the at sign is something that we use a lot in Microsoft Teams. I will tell you a little bit about it later, but that's how we can use it here. Any team codes, let's say you guys want a secret code 007 or the like, you can put it here. Any fun stuff of emojis or who you want to tag. So if I go ahead and click here on analytics, obviously this team, guys, isn't used that much, so there isn't a whole lot of data that we can pull from it. But at the same time, what we can say is there's 4 users, we've got 6 apps, we shared about 2 megs of data, not too much. We have a few people involved. If we had any posts or replies, they would show up here. All that analytical data would be accessible to us through that Teams management. And then, of course, lastly, any applications that are tied to those teams, which we'll talk about apps here in just a minute, but you can see here that there's a few applications already tied to this. Okay, let's jump into the channels now. So we've talked a lot about the teams, what's teams. Now, what is a channel? So I'm gonna click on this project tracking channel, and basically every channel looks the same, guys. It's gonna start the same up top here. You're gonna have posts, which is basically the news feed. So I could go in here and I could start a conversation, hi guys. So that's of course gonna be here for everyone in the chat is gonna be able to access this as well. So I can also click on the files. And so anything files that were related to this channel would be here. So let's add some files real quick just to see. So here we've seen Craig has responded because of course I invited Craig to be a part of this team. So he can of course see anything that I've said. He can talk back and forth with me because we're a part of this team and channel together. So let's go ahead and add a couple documents. So this is a project tracking. Let's say we have a possible sale that we're working on, Craig and I are working on. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's see here. Can I find my documents? So let's say we had a quote here. I'm gonna add a quote. Maybe we tried to sell something to one of our clients. Let's take a peek here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send it here. And now this quote is part of the thread permanently. And I can go ahead and I can open it up. And if you do work for FPA or you belong as a client to FPA, you'll see that this is our quote template. And for this example, we did sell some printer toner to one of our lovely clients. And this is the quote. And so let's say that Craig and I were trying to sell the printer toner and I gave it to Craig and he sees it. Well, then let's say we received an approval. So I can go in here and I received this email approval. And I'll go ahead and I'll send that into this as well. So, and if I go ahead and click on this email approval, we can see exactly what it is. So as you can say, this is real. I can approve, thank you, exclamation mark. So another satisfied FPA client, as we can see here. Now, if I go up to the files, those 2 files that I just updated will be there as well. So we can not only look for the files that exist under the posts, but we can also add any that are looked under the file tab directly. We can add that. Okay, so how do we talk inside a post? What are some of the things we can do inside a post? As you can see in this channel, Craig and I have already talked to each other. I've sent him a couple of the quotes, but let's say I want to tell him, hey, you know what? Let's do something really exciting. Let's say she approved. So I'm going to go open my text box here. Exciting, yes, great work here. So as you guys can see, our little our type box down here that we talked about last time, what I'm going to do, that's how I talk to in the channel and in the chats. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this format button, and let's say I have something really exciting to say inside here. Let's say we got it, and so I'm going to tell Craig, hey, everything is awesome, because it is. So I'll go ahead, thanks for your help, Craig. You're the best.
You're no Michael Jordan, but I still have.
Hey, Scottie Pippen had a role, Craig. Come on. So anyways, here we go. I just sent that's something fun we can do, a little bit of banner and stuff, all these different things, way that we can interact from each other through this Teams and channel. So that's really cool. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone through teams and channels, how would I go about creating a team? Let's go back to that real quick and let's create a team just so that everybody has an idea of how you would go about doing that. So remember here in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm gonna go ahead and click create a team. And instead of joining one, I'm gonna go over here and click create team, the button here. And I have 2 choices. One, I can build from scratch, or 2, I can build from a template from a team that I've already created. Now, don't worry, it's not going to pull all the information. It's just going to pull the structure. So don't worry about pulling some private information into a new team that you want to create. It's only going to pull the structure. So what I want to do here, though, is just build from scratch. And I want it to be public. And let's say we just want to do a team at FPA for kudos. We just want to tell people when they do a great job. So all I'm going to do, and Microsoft Teams, as you can see, is really happy for me that I've started this group. I can start by typing a name. So let's say I want to involve Craig. So I can go ahead and include Craig on here as well. Anybody who I want to add, I can just go ahead and add right here. And I can choose to add people at a later date if I'd like to as well. So here we have on the left here our kudos teams, along with all our other teams that we're involved with. And it's really easy for us to move teams around. Let's say, obviously, the kudos one maybe is a little bit more important. So I can go ahead and move that up to the top. I can go ahead and pin that if I'd like to the top. Here's how I add the channels, remember, all that good stuff here. Let's say I wanted to add a member. I could go ahead and click here. I would add a member very quickly right there onto that. So here we go, guys. That really settles how a team and a channel work inside the Teams application. That should give you guys a really good idea of how you can set up a team and a channel and how you interact with a team and channel. Remember, teams and channels are a little bit more robust, a little bit more muscle than just the regular chat. We can keep track of things that are multitasking levels. Let's say we have a rolling date or we have multiple moving parts. Instead of a chat, that's just not good enough. What we're going to do is we're going to go into that Teams world. We're going to create a Teams. We're going to add out that channels, and that's how we're going to do that. Okay, now what I'm going to do, guys, is send back to my PowerPoint slide here real quick, and let's jump into applications. So this is really fun. Applications are really a fun part of Microsoft Teams. So let's talk a little bit about applications. And how I'm going to start here is there's 5 basic types, features of applications that we're going to talk about. And here you have them up on your screen. So let's talk about all these different types of applications. The first one is what they call tabs applications. We can kind of call those the full service applications, really the ones that are involved with Microsoft Teams, Excel, Planner, all that good stuff. The applications that are really going to tie in to Microsoft very well. Those are what we call tabs applications. We also have bot applications. So a lot of you might have heard the word bot before, but you don't know exactly what it does. So essentially what a bot does is it performs a task for you. You can tell a bot to give you a list of something. You can tell a bot to schedule a meeting for you. You can tell a bot to assign a task. You could tell a bot, Craig could set up a bot that said, okay, every Thursday, I want you to tell everyone at FPA to take a 2-hour lunch on me. So that would be something wonderful we could do. We could use a bot to do that. Okay, the third one is messaging. And what do we mean by a messaging extension? So while we're having that chat, what we can do is actually use applications that interact with the chat inside. So I'm going to show you an example of that a little bit, but basically it's like a polling, or let's say we want to do a survey or somehow interact within that chat. That's how we're going to use messaging extensions to use to get what we want done. Okay, connectors. What's a connector? Basically, a connector is, social productivity updates with keyword search. So what's type of connectors? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and everyone's favorite TikTok. So I'm willing to bet that there's someone on this chat right now that will be spending this afternoon doing a TikTok video in their living room. Don't feel bad. My wife is doing one as we speak. So message me your username and we can share. You can see lovely TikToks of my wife and my daughter. So, but we can integrate that into Teams, and that's really great. We can do that. What we can also do is use keyword searches, such as Google. So let's say we really loved zebras. So what we could do is create a connector that said, okay, every day, Google, I want you to search the internet, and I want you to tell me every article that has to do with zebras. And the connector could easily do that, and you could keep your knowledge and love of zebras up to date on a daily basis. So those apps are really cool too. Finally, we have activity feed. An activity feed is really a chronological timestamp. So let's say you're sharing a lot of information, you're doing stuff, and you don't want to wait for someone to tell you. This application will really update the channel right away. So instead of someone having to tell you that they updated a new document, this app will actually update the chat for you so you don't have to do it. So those are the main 5 different features of applications. So let's dive a little bit deeper here. What types of apps are available in Teams? So as we talked about the Office 365 apps, so of course Teams and Microsoft, all the applications that you can really think of that work with Microsoft, they integrate with Teams. And you know what? The truth is that Microsoft has gone all in on Teams, guys. That's the truth. They're spending a tremendous amount of money on Teams, a tremendous amount of resources. And so at FPA, we've kind of decided, hey, well, we better get with the train because this is something that's going to be permanent with Microsoft. This is really where they want to go and where they head. So it's best that we just jump on that as soon as we can. And what's really great, and again, what we mentioned in previous webinars, the fact that the apps integrate is the difference maker, right? Compared to your Zoom, compared to these. I can pull in all these apps, the Word, all these third party, the OneNote, everything can come in and I can interact with those while I'm having meeting. And that is a key differentiator for Teams. Okay, so third-party apps such as, YouTube, GitHub, Adobe, Trello, ADP, Salesforce, those are some big ones. But right now, Microsoft has over 400 third-party applications. That's a whole lot. And I would be willing to bet by the end of 2020, it's going to be, maybe close to 1,000. This is just going to become more and more. We're really on the onset of this, which a lot of it, in all honesty, was created by COVID. But the fact is we're here and they're really pushing this, and it's about time that everybody got involved now as opposed to a year or two from now when we really could have done some damage getting it set up right now. Finally, the last apps that are available that not a lot of people know about within Teams, they're custom apps. They're organizational specific. So we can do departmental tools or employee resources. So there's some very basic custom templates apps that we can make that will help our processes and workflow within our company work better. So Microsoft actually, if you had some technical people on your side, you can actually build custom apps within Teams. Now, I'm not sure because you guys are at a Teams webinar that you're going to be building your own apps. I hope you are someday. But if you want to, just know that that's a possibility. There's a lot of templates of very simple custom apps we can do. But at the same time, if we wanted to take it as far as we can, Teams will allow that. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back into Teams app. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would add an app. So I'm going to jump up here to chat. And one important note, guys, I want to make here real quick is that there's a difference between adding an app in a Teams and channel and adding an app in a chat. So not all apps work in chats, but all apps work in Teams and channels. So for instance, I'm in the chat with Craig right now. There might be an app that might not work. But if I go ahead and go into the team, then of course, every app that's included will work. So let's say I wanted to add an app here. I showed you guys how I added Wikipedia last time. You can see it still down here. Let's say I click on this ellipsis here and I see a couple apps. They already tell me, hey, what do you want to add? So let's say we want to add YouTube, and it comes up here, and it's really great because what it does is it gives me a little bit of information of what this is involved with this app, the permissions that will be involved, and whether or not I want to install this. Let's say I do. So I'm going to click add. Okay, so now you can see at the bottom, it's as simple as that, guys. Simple click, I've added the application of YouTube to this chat. And then I can add anything I want. For instance, we've been talking so much about Michael Jordan. So let's say we want to talk a little bit about the Chicago Bulls. And so trade rumors, very best plays from 2000. Let's say that one works good for me. Okay, and then I press enter and I sent that to Craig. I used the YouTube application to send him a video, and Craig on his end could just go ahead and click on that video and he would be able to, a new window would open and he would watch that video. So I can add an app down here. I can also go up here to the tab line, guys, and I can add an app here. So if I click here on add a tab, you guys can see very clearly I can add all the big ones, Excel, OneNote, all this and other ones down here, too many to name, guys. I'll go ahead and click Excel. Let's say I want to add it. And we want to do this. I want to key topics to discuss Excel sheet. We'll save it there. And now all of a sudden you can see here on the tabs, Excel has been created, right? So now we have an Excel sheet. We also have a OneNote. If you remember last time we added OneNote here, and that shows up here on this tab, and I can go ahead and add anything I want. Let's say I wanted to do some meeting notes from today's meeting. I would keep them here in my OneNote, and I would be able to access those, and anybody who's involved would be able to access those at any time. That's really a really wonderful feature about Teams, is the fact that nothing ever goes away. If you make the notes and you keep the notes, they'll always be there. So let's go ahead and jump into Teams. How would I add an app in a team or channel? So here I am again, and here down here, you can see that the YouTube is still here. They've cross-functioned over. I can go ahead and add an app the same way I did down here. I can go ahead and add an app the same way I did up here. But what's the best way to add an app? How can I look at all the apps, Bob? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. On the bottom left-hand corner here, we have this apps button. I'm gonna go ahead and click on it, and it's gonna open up every single app that's available within Microsoft Teams. And let me tell you guys, it's a lot. It's a little bit overwhelming. You almost need to know what it is that you want to find. But there are some really nice topic headers over here on the left that we can do. Remember when I showed you that slideshow earlier, it broke it up into bots and tabs and connectors and messaging. Well, there was a reason why I did that, because if I click on bots here, you can see now all these applications are related to a bot type application. Let's say I wanted a connector type application. I could click on connector, and these are the ones that I would see. It'd be very easy for me to decide which ones that I want based off of what type of features that I want within that application. So here we also have top picks. Let's say we're not sure, we want to add something, but we don't know what. We could go ahead and look at top picks. What is everybody else doing? I could do popular apps as well. Analytics, Power BI, if you're one of those guys that really likes numbers and want to see, Power BI is a wonderful tool. There's plenty of applications out here that can assist you with Power BI and pulling those analytics that you want. Development, education, human resources, all through the time, guys. I'm not going to bore you. Take your time on your personal time. Look for the things that you want. If you have any questions about apps, of course, you can reach out to Craig or myself, but I would suggest you kind of looking around on your own, because there's just so much to look and see. It's really exciting. So let's go ahead and add an application. So this one here, Poly, it's a play on the word poll, I believe, but it's a very popular application. And so let's go ahead and see what it's all about. If I go ahead and click on it, it has a couple pictures here. It has a little information. What's it gonna do? So, okay, well, maybe I don't want that one. Maybe I want to do some praise. So I can click that and I can see, okay, well, what's about praise? What about that app? And then if I go to some of the third-party ones, it's really neat. Let's click on this one. I don't know, but some of them have videos, huh? Wouldn't you know? So do you see here that there's actually a YouTube video that you can watch about this third-party app, as to see whether or not it would be a good fit for you and your company. So what you can do is click on the apps without, getting the app, and see if it works for you. And if so, let's go back to Polly and say, okay, you sold me. This is great. Let's add it. Okay, so then Polly is going to add here to me. And it's going to say, okay, Bob, you want to start a quick poll? So I'm going to say, okay. And you do it real simply like this. And it's going to show here within the team chat now, it's kind of set this real special polling station. So anyone who was kind of involved, they could pick which one they want. So let's say I say, okay, team, you did a great job. Do we want to eat steak or pizza today? And so we could have everyone choose, or maybe the vegetarian option if someone wants that. What we can do is run a quick poll with the Poly application, and very easily kind of gauge the temperature of how our team feels about certain things. So that's really cool. That's a pretty cool application that as you can see, I added very easily, very simply. And all I did was type in a little message here up top to your question, and it populated down here very, it was really not much work on my end to make that happen. If you can see here on the left, now the Poly app is shown up here. Let's say I've had enough of Poly and I'm done with it. I'm gonna uninstall Poly. Okay, sorry, Poly, you're gonna go. It was just as easy as that. So I've added and subtracted an application with a couple clicks of a button. It's very simple for me to add application. It's very simple for me to delete an application. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about cost. So everybody always asks, okay, Bob, well, that's great, but what about, do these applications cost money? Well, the answer is sometimes they do cost money. We have some very basic ones that are free, like the Poly app that I just installed, that is free. Most are freeware based, but then once you get more involved, you have to pay for the upgrades. Some are fee-based. For instance, if you were to buy something on StubHub, some tickets, they're not going to charge you to use this application, but once you make the purchase, they're going to charge you a fee. or an advertisement such as Twitter or Facebook, what's going to happen is that they're going to let you use that, but they're going to bombard you with advertisements. So if you can deal with that, that's just fine. And you can use those applications. Okay, guys, that completes the teams and channels and the apps. But what I'm going to do here real quick, because I know this is so important for everyone, I'm going to run through how you start meetings in Teams. I know this is so big for everyone. I want to do it for you real quick. So here we go. It's Craig and I. Here we are in this demo. How do I start a meeting with him? Very easily, what I can do is I can go down here to the calendar and I can schedule a meeting right now. So let's say the add tile, review sales numbers, let's say. I'm going to include Craig. You can see right there in this title, the date and the time of when I want the meeting to occur. I didn't mention this last time, but now that we've talked about teams and channels, you can see here, I can click on it and I can add any channel that I belong to this meeting. So you ask, well, how do I make a channel meeting? This is how. Very simply, within the schedule meeting application, you just drop down here, pick which one you want. Let's say it's HR related. He wants to praise me, obviously. So we'll do team resources here. And now that team's channel is associated with this, and I can say anything I want. I can go ahead and send this. And now Craig has this. Another way I can do it, as we've talked about, is using my calendar here in the application process. And you can see I've had a pretty lazy day, Bob, or lazy week here, Bob, demo. But the last invitation that I sent to Craig shows up. So let's say I want to have a meeting tomorrow with a friend at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say pre-weekend drinks, and I can go ahead and I can invite some of my friends, Craig can come, and then I'll invite Kyle if he pays, and all this good stuff here. I can pick when the time is and all this good stuff. And when I go ahead and I press send, he's going to get it and it's going to show up immediately on my calendar just like that. So that's how easy I can create Outlook, or excuse me, a meeting. If I wanted to add anyone else, remember real quick, I can add in here, like I told you guys, it doesn't need to be a part. We can use anybody we want. Our good friend Michael Jordan can be added anytime we want to any meeting. See, here he is. He's already a part of it. So we can send it to him. Final way that we can do a invitation here real quick is through Outlook. So let's say we wanted to make a call through Outlook. As you can see, I've done a little quick screenshot here, guys, and up top on the ribbon, you can see this Teams icon. And if I go ahead and press that, it's going to put a little team link inside the message. And when we send that off, that's what the person is going to click on when they enter in. So a lot of people ask me, Bob, well, if I send this to someone who isn't on Teams, what is it going to be like that for them? Okay, so this is what they're going to do. They're going to get that email. They're going to click on the link and they're going to see this right here. And what they're going to have two choices. They're going to be able to download the app, which they don't have to if they don't want to. And if they don't, they can click on join the web instead. So once they join on the web instead, it will open up in Chrome or Firefox or Edge or whatever it is that you use, Safari. It will open up and they'll be able to interact within Teams through the web-based application as opposed to downloading the application. So anybody who who doesn't have Teams installed, it doesn't matter. They can still be a part of the meetings. Okay,
So Bob, just to
Sure.
jump in real quick there, we did get a question from somebody very tied to that point that you just made. Can you schedule a meeting with someone outside your company, or is that feature an additional cost?
It is absolutely not an additional cost. And all you're going to do here, let me just dive right back here real quick, guys. I'm just going to type their email address here in the meeting. It can be anyone you want. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, so I'll just do my wife at home.com. And obviously this isn't a real email address, but Teams doesn't know. And I just click invite, and there you can see she's been added. And if this were a real email address, she would receive this invitation. So to answer your question, you can absolutely invite anyone that isn't on Teams to any Teams meeting. It's not a restriction. You don't have to pay for anything more. You can invite anyone you want at any time.
And then to jump in too, that's not just a call meeting, but it's also a video meeting. So
Sure.
whatever their capabilities are on their side, that's the only limitation. And like you said, zero additional cost to be able to incorporate other people into the Teams platform.
Yep, exactly. Thanks,
Thanks
Craig.
thanks for answering that one, Bob.
Okay, so real quick, guys, I know we're running out of time here. This is what it looks like. This is the most important bar when you're in a meeting. When you scroll over, you're going to see this bottom bar. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. You're going to have a little camera here. If you want to turn the video on and off, you can. Same thing with the microphone here. Let's say you want to share your screen, which I'm doing right now. We do this all the time. I find it to be tremendously helpful to share your screen, or to have someone that you're talking with share their screen. So that function is very easy there. We can also do additional calls. We talked a little bit about backgrounds and things of that nature you can kind of look into on your own. Here we go with the two people. We can add participants. So let's say Craig and I start a phone call and we want to add someone. No problem. All I'm going to do is go ahead and click on this, and I can add participants while I'm in the meeting. It doesn't need to be beforehand. I can include someone mid-meeting if I so choose, as well as that big red phone at the end. There's how I would go ahead and hang up. Okay, one last thing here real quick, guys. I know this is a big thing on everyone's mind. They ask, how does Teams work with the mobile phone, with everything like that? Well, the answer is, again, Microsoft has spent a tremendous amount of money on making sure Teams works across all platforms. I'm talking iOS, Android, iPad, iPhone, anything you need that you use, you can do here in Teams. You can do calls, you can see your calendar, you can join meetings, you can share your screen. Although it is a little hard to get used to. A couple times Craig was on the phone and I just saw his forehead, so we didn't figure out the camera angle just yet. But it worked, and it works great, guys. It really does. So if you're on the move, on the go, Teams is the application for you. So that basically sums it up for me, guys. I hope you know more about Teams and channels. I hope you know more about the applications. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine to talk with you, and I really appreciate your time. I value it. I know Craig does as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig to finish this up.
All righty. Looks like technically we were able to make that transition as seamless as more seamless than anything we've done today.
Yeah. Hey, it just takes
Anyway.
2 times. We get it.
Yeah. 3 webinars and 2 times in, we finally got it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a couple things before we end this. One is we definitely have more Teams resources on our website. I know this is a long URL here. I would just recommend, if you want to get this, just take a quick print screen, right? Real easy to get this. Also, if you go to on the top right corner of the navigation bar of our website, we have the WFH resources, which is short for work from home resources. And on that, there's going to be a link for recommended resources for Microsoft Teams. That'll be really easy to spot. It's right up on top of that page. So literally go to our website, www.fpainc.com, go to the WFH resources link, and then you will see the recommended Teams resources. And there's a boatload of resources there that you guys can drill down and into. So that being said, and again, we're limited to time and I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. We can go over if people are interested, and there are some questions. So I did want to at least open this up with Bob. I do think that there were a number of questions that are pretty specific, pretty detailed, and actually lend itself to potentially our next webinar, which I think will allow us to drill down even more on a couple specific topics. And one of the big topics has been, at least as far as the question goes, is around apps, integrating apps. What are some of our recommended apps? What are the things that we've done to extend the capabilities of Teams and really leverage some things? So there's a couple really cool apps that we can integrate in and show you guys how we use them, how we leverage them, how we get more out of Teams by integrating apps. So look for that. I think that's something that internally we're going to build another webinar around and really drill down on the apps concept. But before we get there, one of the questions, and Bob, feel free to chime in on this if I don't have the proper answer, but will the invite to a meeting that's sent to people outside the organization have a phone number that people can call into? And is there a charge for that? So my understanding and the way that I believe that this all works and the way I've seen it work is there really isn't a phone number per se. It's not phone sharing. You would click on it through a web browser, and whether either you would click on the button, and either you would install or run the connection through your Teams app, or run it through the web browser, again, using a web version of the Teams app. And whether or not that's on your computer or on your phone, whether it's video or whether it's just your voice call, all of that is done without a phone number per se, because it's all done through the Microsoft Teams platform, but there are no additional charges for that, and there's no charge for either you as the initiator of the meeting, nor is there a charge for an attendee who's calling in.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Craig. And the only thing I'll add to it is, let's say you wanted to use your phone and just be on an audio call, you would open up the link on your smartphone, and then it would literally act as a phone call. It wouldn't be using the phone plan from your phone. It would be using the internet, obviously, but you could use your phone in that instance. You couldn't use a direct dial number, just like Craig said, but you could use your phone to communicate in that manner. You don't need to be on a computer.
Right. And technically, that's kind of 95% of the time in terms of what we see, because remember again that Teams can be set up in two different ways. Teams can be set up as a standalone application, running everything that we've just talked about: meetings, document sharing, collaboration, video chat, video, all of that sort of fun stuff. So that's sort of level one. Level two is if you actually integrate in and replace your phone system and use a phone system that integrates in with Microsoft Teams as the phone system. So again, that 95 to 5%, right now, a majority of our clients do not have their phone system integrated with it. Majority of Microsoft clients do not have their phone system integrated with it. But if you do have it integrated with your phone system, then when you send out that meeting invite, it does include a phone number because of that integration, because of the fact that you're using the Microsoft phone system built into Teams, then you are using the Microsoft phone number. Now, that doesn't mean that there's going to be any additional charges. It's just a slightly different way of how Microsoft presents the connectivity. So, truth be told, like I said, there's two different ways to go about it. But if you're not using Microsoft's phone system, you're not going to get a phone number. One of the questions here is, how do you invite somebody to a private channel?
Sure. So what you would have to do, if we went into that channel ellipsis, so let's say we created our team and we created our channel. So the team has an ellipsis, those three dots, but a channel is going to have an ellipsis as well. So if I were to click on that ellipsis within the channel we wanted, one of the line items will say add a member. So you can add either a member. See, thanks, Craig, for going in there real quick. Craig's going to click on the ellipsis here. Or actually, excuse me, yeah, manage channel. And then he can go ahead. Actually, he's going to do it in the team, on the team setting ellipsis. Sorry, I made that mistake there. So you're going to add a member here, and this can either be someone within your team or someone on the outside. So you can see here, and then you can differentiate on the channel who has access once you've invited them to the team. So that's how you do that. You'd have to separate between public. So if you add someone to a team, they're going to have access to all the public channels. So if you, in your case, you wanted to add someone to a private channel, you'd have to make a private channel and then give that member of the team permission to that channel. Does that make sense? So if you add someone, a member, they're going to have access to all the public channels you've created in that team. Excuse me, but if you want a private channel, you would have to create the private channel and then you give that member the permission that you want.
Okay. One of the other questions I think that's should be relatively simple, either simple or it's an anomaly. Is can you review stop screen sharing, as I've had issues with getting disconnected when trying to stop screen sharing. So I think to do that is probably coming, the easiest way to talk about it is coming back here, right? Uh, and this is
So
the
what
screen
happens,
sharing
Greg?
icon right here.
Yeah. So what happens if he were to actually press that? Up on the top of the bar, there's going to be another button that shows up that's going to say stop screen sharing. So when you do share your screen, you're going to go ahead, if you want to still stay on the call but not get rid of the screen sharing, just click that top button that says stop sharing. That's what you'd go ahead and do, as opposed to hanging up on the call. So all you want to do is stop the sharing, but you still want to be a part of the meeting.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and this has happened to myself as well, which is I end up clicking on the X,
Oh,
and
sure.
unfortunately, instead of doing what I think it does, I've now disconnected from the call. So it's really understanding, if there's an X up in the top corner of this screen, I would definitely stay away from that, because that is pretty much saying close Teams. Stay within the margin of this navigation bar and the stuff that's going on the left hand side as well. I think it's uh, again, it's mentally getting comfortable with the control.
Sure.
So, like I said, we wanted to be sensitive to everybody's time. Right now, it's about 12:05, and I think we've answered a number of the questions. Some of these are a little bit more detailed, and I think we'd like to cover them in a little bit more detail on another webinar, really talking about apps and integration and those sorts of things. One of the questions has to do with sharing information between SharePoint and Teams, and how is that information shared? Again, that's a great question, but I think it's a pretty involved question in terms of sort of conceptually, and also best practices. Because one of the things about an application like Teams is it's really easy for it to kind of get out of hand, because it's just so flexible. There's so many things that you can do with it, so many pieces that you can add to it, and so many different places that you can store information. So part of that is just getting into a good practice around how do we manage the information around that. And frankly, the starting point is really building out your team's management team, no pun intended with using the word team in both sentences, in one sentence, but really having an owner, having somebody who runs your team's environment, so that you can keep things consistent across all your different teams, and more of sort of the administrative side of things. So that being said, I think we've answered a majority of people's questions. The ones that we haven't answered, we'll reach back and circle back with you either individually, or we will integrate these into the next level of webinar. And like I said, we're getting a decent amount of input and questions around apps and our preferred apps and recommended apps and things that we use to kick this up to another level. And I think that would be a really valuable next step in our webinar series. So that being said, unless there's any major topics that we've missed, I want to thank all of you guys. I want to thank Bob for an outstanding job he did. This was, I think, hopefully for you guys, very informative. For me, a couple of nuggets that refreshed me on a couple things. So hopefully this was valuable. And again, that's the big goal in our minds, is just providing value to you guys out there, and helping you use these tools to the next level and get it up, and do as much as we can to help you with that. So Bob, great job. Really appreciate it. Any last words of wisdom you'd like to throw out there for us?
Hey, I just really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you very much for attending. Hopefully you were able to learn something today. You can always reach out to Craig and I directly. We'd love to help. We just want to be a resource for you guys in the future, for teams, for your IT, anything we can do to help improve your company. That's what we're interested in doing. So thanks again for your time, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Here's our contact info. Like I said, look for an invite for the next level. Really peeling things back on apps and some real world examples of how you can take this to the next level. So thank you all. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
Take
take
care.
care.